Welcome to Blind City. I had to lose my sight to find my vision.
Are you blind? Are you blind? Open your eyes. They lying every time, so I don't trust men, only trust God. I had to lose my sight before I could see the light.
Welcome to Blind City. I'm your host, Langford Cunningham. This is Blind City, the podcast. We address the issues to help inspire people. For us to move forward, we have to look at humanity, because that's one thing we all have in common. This racism crap has been embedded in America's culture and history. We can't keep passing on this disease to the next generation, because then we're at fault. So we have to stand for something. If not, you will fall for anything. If you don't have no solutions, that means you are the pollution to the community. I'd rather be around the gangsters, the strippers, the streets, because that's where Jesus was at. The only way we're going to make our community better, we got to work together. I'm keeping it 100 today, Blind City. This your host, Langford Cunningham. Let's talk about it. The most dangerous man on the planet is a blind man with a handgun. Welcome to Blind City. We are the therapy for the streets. I'm your host, Langford Cunningham. I have a special guest inside the city. He has overcame adversity. He has turned obstacles into opportunities. And he put his faith on the front lines of a life sentence. My man, the prison Picasso, Valentino Dixon. How you doing, bro? Welcome to the city.
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm blessed and blind, brother. I'm blessed and
That's
blind. Let's talk about your journey, man. It's a journey that we're seeing getting played out through America, people being falsely accused, getting sent to prison, and then getting released 40, 30, 20 years later. But your story is kind of unique. So can you inform my listeners about your journey and what took place?
I was arrested in August 10th, 1991 on my mother's birthday. And I'm the only child. So, you know, that was a bad day. It was a horrific day for her. And I was accused of murder, a crime I didn't commit. Although 80 witnesses were at the scene of the crime, I found myself going to trial. You know, within 2 days, 7 witnesses came forward to tell authorities I didn't commit the crime, and the person that committed the crime confessed. All of these people were disregarded, and I went to trial with a public defender, and he didn't call any of these witnesses to testify on my behalf. And I was found guilty and sentenced to 39 years to life.
39 years to life.
Yes, 39 years to life. And I was sent to the infamous Attica prison, one of the worst prisons in the history of America.
Right. And that's in upstate New York, right? That's in upstate New York?
Yeah. Yes, it's known for the most deadliest prison riot in U.S. history. And when I got there, the conditions were still poor, the health care, the abuse inside the prison. Anyway, after all my appeals was exhausted, I found myself realizing that the system wasn't designed or equipped to give the poor person a fair trial. And my uncle urged me to take my artistic ability to the next level, which I did, drawing up to 10 hours a day, 365 days a year. And I became known as the artist in Attica.
Wow. So you were so let's get this straight. So you were drawing in prison.
Yeah, I realized that I would have to draw my way out of prison because the 8 witnesses that eventually came forward and the confession was not enough. Authorities would not admit that they made a mistake, which made it a fabricated case, because once the evidence came, it was no longer a mistake, it was a manufactured case. You know, everybody protected each other in order to not have to admit that they made a mistake here.
Exactly.
You know, and even while I was in prison, this is the crazy part. The judge on my trial was arrested for sexual acts in the public park and remained on the bench for another 20 years after that. And this is guy, I had to file my motions. I had to file my motions through him, and he would deny anything that was filed. Okay, and our local newspaper got involved after I had about 13 years in. I showed them that I was innocent because I proved it through the paperwork, through the police statements and their own investigation, you know. And right after they arrested me, my car and my clothes was taken to determine if I fired a weapon. And once they realized I didn't fire a weapon, they didn't turn over the results, you know. And those results is what ultimately freed me 27 years later.
27 years later.
Yeah, but going back, I realized that, you know, our system was extremely discriminatory. It filled with bias, racism, and prejudice. You know, and Michelle Alexander, a legal scholar and former Supreme Court clerk, said it best. She said the system, you know, when something is racist, but without racist language, it's hard to prove. You know, and one of the greatest tragedies has been the lack of concern for the poor and indigent person in our legal justice system.
Correct.
You know, so here I am, and I'm not the only one in there that's innocent now. I'm listening to stories from guys that can clearly prove that they didn't commit the crime. You know, and what happens is that the public don't question when a person is brought up on these type of charges. Okay, and the district attorneys and the judges, they're fully aware of this. Nobody's going to question them. You know, we've arrested a killer, you know, and we got our man. And it's the end. It's the end of, you know, it's over with after that.
And let me ask you this.
So
let me ask you this. When you went through when you went through all this with the public defender, you know, we call him a public pretender because I have a degree in criminal justice.
Yeah. Right.
Did you had a jury, correct?
I had an all-white jury.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. And not only that, this guy was a former prosecutor for 7 years before going into his own private practice, and he was assigned to my case. Okay. He actually told the jury that he would call witnesses that would tell them I didn't commit the crime, and then didn't call any of the witnesses. Then he had the nerve to ask the judge on the record, Your Honor, what should I tell the jury during my deliberations? Because I told him I was going to call witnesses, I didn't call any. The judge on the record said, I don't know what you should do. That's not my responsibility. Okay. And this same judge told me that I received a fair trial.
Received a fair
trial. I took two polygraph tests and passed both of them. So once realizing that this system was not going to do the right thing, I just turned to my artwork, and I also read up to maybe about 800, 900 books when I was in prison. Okay, so I was educating myself. Books. Yeah, I was also educating myself. I went to college before they actually took the college programs, you know, and I read everything from autobiographies to history books to business books to self-help, you know, and it allowed me to really expand my mind, you know, and put together a strategy on how I was going to get out of prison.
So how did you maintain, because you went into prison as a young guy, so with you going through all these different cycles and realizing that this is a racist system, I'm being framed, I'm being held in front of this jury like this mean black man, this black man that commits murders, this stereotype. They painted this picture of me. How did you control your mindset going through all of this?
Well, I end up developing a strong faith.
Strong faith.
Okay, and that would be the key to understanding the suffering that I was going through. That in this world, you know, God is going to test you, and we don't get to decide what type of test. You know, my test was a 27-year test.
You got that?
You know, we don't get to decide that.
Right.
You know, I had to look at everything. You know, from You know, what did the slaves go through when they were being tested? Imagine being born a slave and dying a slave and living through that era. You know, yeah. So in looking at that, I realized that, you know, I was created for these type of challenges, you know, and to actually not only overcome whatever was thrown my way, but to be able to share my message with the world. And because everybody's going to go through something, and people need to hear that you can overcome whatever it is that you're going through, that you're going to deal with in life. You can overcome it.
Right, that's correct.
You know, but yeah.
So and this was your journey. You felt this was your journey. God placed you on this journey. This is part of your journey.
No doubt. God somehow sent me, he would always send me signs, okay? And the signs was to keep pushing forward, your day is going to come. When I was around guys that committed suicide, that couldn't make it through the whole ordeal.
Right, they tapped out.
They were dealing with.
They tapped out.
Yeah, they tapped out. After 10 years, 15 years, the guys just say, yo, this is enough. I can't do it no more, you know? And so I was so determined to walk out of there and to, to make my mark on this world, which is why I walked out of prison and I got right to work. I started a foundation called the Art of Freedom, and I visit guys in prison. I write guys in prison. Okay. I speak all over the world about how we can make the system more fair, just, and equal. I try to inform people that wouldn't necessarily know anything or have anything to do with our judicial system and why it's important for them to care and to get involved. Because these are not only human rights violations, but constitutional rights violations, and according to our own Constitution.
No doubt.
Yeah, right.
So what's the name of the foundation again?
The Art of Freedom.
The Art of Freedom. Now, how could people get in contact with the Art of Freedom? How could they reach you? Do you have a website?
I have a website. And they can just log on, and they can donate something to help fight wrongful convictions and sentencing reform, because we have some of the worst sentencing guidelines in the world. This is why we have over 2.3 million people incarcerated, because the sentencing laws are too excessive and violate the Constitution.
So let's get back to when you were behind the bars, and what type of pictures were you drawing? What with you going through all this stress?
The crazy thing is, as an artist, I never wanted to just keep myself confined into a box, in the sense that I drew everything, from African art to animals to landscapes to people, portraits. Then here comes the warden one day, and he says, "Hey, Valentino, you think you can draw my favorite golf hole?" I said, "Yeah, I can draw it, but I ain't never golfed before. I'm a black kid from the hood, from the ghetto, but I'll, bring the picture and I'll draw it for you." So he brought in the 12th hole of Augusta. I didn't know nothing about it.
Right.
He brought the 12th hole of Augusta in. I drew it for him. He loved it. Another inmate encouraged me to draw more golf holes. I rejected it. However, after a couple of weeks, I started drawing golf holes because guys brought some old magazines to me and tossed them on my bed. Okay? So I started drawing these golf holes every day. Fast forward 6 months later, I got about 30 drawings, and I write a 4-page letter to the Golf Digest magazine explaining to them that I'm a black kid drawing these golf courses, and I never golfed before, but I'm finding serenity in drawing golf courses.
So where did that serenity come from, though? Where did that passion come from, you drawing these golf courses?
Fishing as a kid.
Okay.
So
your father took you fishing.
Yeah, he took us fishing like twice a year when we was younger. And that was like heaven on earth because it was quiet and peaceful and tranquil. And that's not something you're used to when you grow up in a drug-infested, violent neighborhood. You
got that right.
Eventually, so when I was drawing these golf courses, it reminded me of that. It reminded me of that time when I was fishing.
So it took you away from that pain. It took you away from that the reality of what you were dealing with.
Totally. I sent some legal papers to the Golf Digest with my letter and a couple of the drawings. And the reporter read everything and couldn't believe what happened to me. He couldn't believe it. He immediately said he was setting up a time to come visit me so that they could put me in their magazine, in which they did, July 12th and July 2012. Issue of the Golf Digest. And Golf Digest had never been inside a prison.
You started off drawing these golf courses.
Yes, which led to a Golf Channel interview while I was in prison that was nominated for Emmy Award.
What? Wait a minute.
That was nominated for Emmy. Now listen to me.
Say that again. Say that again for my listeners.
Which led to a Golf Channel interview while I was in prison that was nominated for Emmy Award.
Oh, glory to God.
Which led to Associated Press and other media outlets writing about my story. Okay, which eventually led to Georgetown taking up my case.
Now you got the real deal lawyers.
And after Georgetown I had read the law for 20 years straight, and nobody knew my case like me, so I had to work with the students almost every day on the phone, trying to get them on the same page where they can really understand the complexity of the case and what happened to me. And once they became familiar with everything, they decided they wanted to do a documentary.
Unbelievable.
Okay, and during this documentary, the prosecutor admitted that he was only human. He could have made a mistake. And he admitted that he withheld the forensic evidence that cleared me of the crime without realizing that he had never turned this evidence over.
Playing with people's lives out here like that, man. That's horrible. Playing with people's lives.
Yep. In September 19, 2018, I was released after 27 years. And then the guy that committed the crime was already in prison for killing another guy, and they brought him to court, and he confessed, and they gave him a plea bargain for the time that they had given me.
And how did that day feel once you walked out of prison? When you finally walked out, touched the ground, how did you feel?
Well, it was surreal. It was the greatest feeling in the world. However, I knew that the journey was just beginning, and I had a lot of work to do. Okay? I had a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to do because we have to change this justice system. And my mission is to bring this catastrophic system to the Americans' awareness on a whole nother level, because American people don't really understand this whole prison reform thing. They don't understand that it's big business, it's investments, and it's opportunities for a certain class of people. You know what I'm saying? And it's devastating to African Americans.
We got Valentino Dixon inside the city right now with this amazing story, putting his faith on the front lines behind bars. But he took time to find a pencil and a notepad. And that's when the creativity of God began, through his hands and artwork. The glory is in the story. We'll be right back.
The views expressed on Blind City are to inspire and motivate people who are struggling through the dark times and searching for the true light.
Are you blind? Are you blind? Open your eyes. They lying every time, so I don't trust men, only trust God. I had to lose my sight before I could see the light.
Check out Orlando Watson and Tony Love in the Del Mar Loop at Prime 55. Some of the best seafood in U City. Go check them out. Go through the doors and get you some of that salmon and lobster French fries and Get some of their brownie cakes. Oh yes, Prime 55, the best seafood in the Del Mar Loop. Check it out. Redemption Academy, empowering lives where hope sustains us through our darkest times. We empower lives to take their lives back. Redemption Academy, drug and alcohol addiction, suicide prevention, domestic abuse, at-risk youth, gang intervention and conflict resolution. Check out Redemption Academy at blindcitythepodcast.com. We're empowering lives where failure is the back door to success.
This is Blind City, the podcast, with your host, Langford Cunningham.
Welcome back to Blind City. I have Valentino Dixon inside the city, and he has just told us, I think it's one of the most glorifying stories I ever heard in my life, and I'm honored to meet him and share his story with people that may not heard of him. And that's what Blind City, the podcast, is doing for the people and communities across America. We're trying to reach out and make sure people don't lose sight of their vision, like Mr. Valentino Dixon. So, Mr. Valentino Dixon, I had to lose my sight to find my vision, because it was one point in my life I was going down the wrong path. I didn't have a personal relationship with God. I was on a crash course to hell, brother. I was addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to strippers. I was just caught on the wrong side of the tracks, brother. But God delivered me like he delivered you from jail. So what I would like to know, Mr. Valentino Dixon, to make sure you don't lose sight of your vision, what is your purpose from right now, with you being free, and what you are doing now with your career, reaching out, helping people, and what other opportunities are you working on to help more people?
Okay. Well, right now, I have a show called Draw and Talk with Me, where I've taped 37 episodes. Okay, and my show consists of teaching people how to draw, but bringing on interesting guests. My first guest was an NFL Hall of Fame football player. I've had Hall of Fame golfers, Major League Baseball player. I've done a Draw and Talk with 20 lawyers and 2 judges. I've done a Draw and Talk with 30 Parkinson's patients. I've done a Draw and Talk with a homeless person, a heart doctor, a police officer, a group of kids. And my goal is to build a platform where I can teach the world about things that they wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to learn about. Okay? And to make the world a better place for us to live in. And to share a certain value that we see lacking now in today's society. I also, next month, I'm going to be counseling the company Google on how they can get involved in prison reform.
That's huge.
Yes. And I just did an interview for Snapchat on how we can make the system more fair, just, and equal. And I'm also in talks with some ABC producers on a 4-part series. And I'll be coming out on HBO next month.
That's amazing.
So you can check me out. Yeah, you can check me out on YouTube, Valentino Dixon, or Draw and Talk with me. Or just Google my name, Valentino Dixon. I also have a website where you can purchase artwork also, if anybody's interested. But that's my mission. My mission is to eventually stand before Congress and plead to Congress that this is a human rights issue. I know that you guys have a heart, and you have to act upon that right now rather than later.
Valentino Dixon, thank you for coming to the city, my brother. Thank you for taking time out to listen to Langford Cunningham. And one thing that I love about you, brother, you don't never feel you too big for people, bro. And you are very humble. And a lot of people don't have that skill. That's a lesson a lot of people are still trying to learn on how to be humble, brother. And I'm glad that I know you. Yes.
Thanks, man. Let me say this. I walked out and I went to the Masters and I met Tiger Woods. I actually told him he was going to win the Masters last year when he won it. Okay? Oh, wow. And the greatest golfer, Jack Nicklaus, compared me to Nelson Mandela when we met each other. And I was given a gold medal from the Vatican Church. Wow. And I also was nominated. I was nominated for another Emmy, so I've been nominated twice. Okay, I've spoken at the NBA Rookie League. You know, I've been all over the world, from Australia to England to New Zealand to Mexico. You know, and I'm sitting with billionaires and millionaires. Okay, but I'll never ever forget where I came from, and I'll never ever forget what we need to do to make this world a better place. And I will not sell my soul out to or for anything in this world.
That's real talk. That's real talk. And I hope the youngsters are listening to this, and just people in general, because that's real, brother. And we definitely need you, and you're definitely out there changing lives. So, like I said, thank you for coming to the city.
Thanks for having me.
And like I say, the glory is in the story. Valentino Dixon. Welcome to Blind City.
If you found this content helpful, please share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Blind City, the podcast. You can find us on all social media platforms.